Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we embrace the peculiar. Dang it, I was trying to do it without the cheat sheet. Where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. Sorry, Coffiners. I was really trying to be cool, and it just didn't work. Frank's here.
Hi, Holly. You would think that on the 100th episode, maybe you'll have it down by heart. I don't know.
Gosh,
Actually,
dang it.
I think the next one I'm going to go ahead and do myself.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Kicking me off the job.
That's right, Holly.
Messed
That's
it
right.
up too many times.
Nope, I'm going to just turn around and say, let's be Holly.
Let's be Holly.
Again, you got to have some sort of a voice, Holly. Well, in our last episode, we talked about all of your male admirers. I have yet to hear of any female admirers on my end, but that's okay. They love you.
Fictitious Lisa.
Oh, fictitious Lisa.
She's a huge follower.
She's
huge
fictitious.
fan.
She's not fictitious. But no, that is good. So, anyway, so here we go again. We're talking another week of episodes, and this one's going to be a little bit fun. I think in the long run, in the long haul, I think we'll see what I did there. In the long haul, I think we'll.
Don't
have
worry,
fun
you'll
with
get that in about 20 minutes.
You'll get it in about So, anyway, so it's been very fun. Kind of a fast-filled week for me as far as travels and back and forth, and it's been good to be visiting with you, and it's always fun. But now back to the grind.
Yep.
So it's all good. We'll just see how it goes. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. What about you? What's happening with you? I know there's a lot going on with you right now.
There's so much.
Yeah, you have some good news for everybody. The Coffiners regarding.
Do I?
Yes.
What? A
decision's been made.
Oh, yes. A decision has been made. We are going to be staying in Utah for law school. And Kaden got a great scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting pretty. We're really excited to potentially be moving and have a little adventure, but got an offer I can't refuse.
Yeah.
What's that really from? Nice. The Godfather?
I don't know.
Is it just a saying and I'm just making it up?
No, it's a saying, Holly. Okay. I don't think you're making it up.
I'm making it up. That's from the Godfather.
That might be the made up part. Yeah, that's true.
But other than that, it's getting a bit warmer, so we're actually starting to prep a garden because now we know we're going to be here.
Yes, good.
So we're going to plant some roots, literally. Okay, I thought that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Uh-huh.
And yeah,
Hold
so
on.
we're
you
just.
A dad? Oh,
am
no.
I?
That's a dumb joke.
Dad?
That's a dad joke, Holly.
By that joke, you would think I was, but no. And that's about it. I'm gearing up for graduation, having fun.
A week away.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! And you've decided not to walk.
I've decided not to walk.
You've just decided graduation is graduation, whether you walk or not.
Exactly.
That's the way I felt.
I don't know. If anyone has any strong feelings about that, if you think I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life, let us know. But I'm not going to lie.
Let her know.
Yeah, let me know. I'll tell you.
I'm already well past it. I don't care.
I'll tell you about it. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to walk.
Okay.
But enough about me. Let's be frank.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about what we have all experienced in our lives. And this is kind of a fun yet interesting story. And I hope that you'll stay with me and understand exactly the parameters and the dynamics of what it is I'm about to tell you and the legalities. So sometimes this is what funeral homes are faced with. But what was the last thing you purchased, Holly?
The last thing I purchased? Oh, gosh. Oh, the last thing I purchased was a little stand so I could display my violin because I finally got it up here. So you know how you have guitar stands and things on that?
Ukulele stand?
Yes, ukulele stand. So I got a stand for my violin, so I have easy access to it.
Very nice. And where did you get the stand from?
Amazon. Always.
Okay. And how did it get to your house?
Man put it on my porch.
He was driving a?
Van.
Okay, good.
Truck.
So, okay, thank you. So now we go back to the reference of the long haul that I gave earlier. And I thought about this story when all the episodes started happening weeks ago, when there was a huge push for truckers to boycott New York. Now, if you think about for just a moment about all the things that you have in life that you experience and enjoy on a daily basis, where does that come from? Well, somewhere or another, it comes from maybe other parts of the world by a barge or boat. Then it comes to a shore, it's offloaded, put on trucks, and then hauled nationwide.
Uh-huh.
So the story that I want to tell you today is about a trucker.
Okay.
And a very interesting man. We didn't know at the beginning, but he
We didn't know he was very interesting.
We did not know he was very interesting, but he became very interesting as time rolled on. So this gentleman came into the state in which I was working, and he had delivered the last of his haul. So he was a long over road trucker, I guess is what
long haul trucker.
Long haul trucker. So this particular trucker was bouncing between two particular cities, one that I was in and then the other one on the East Coast. And so he had just finished unloading he was spending 2 weeks of the month in each location. Okay. So 2 weeks on the East Coast, 2 weeks in the city that I was actually in. But the city that I was in, he actually finished his load unloading and then died. He had suffered a major heart attack and passed away. Right. So we get a phone call from the missus here in town, and she calls and she says, I understand that you have my husband. And I said, who's your husband? And she gave me the name, and I said, no, we do not. In fact, this is the first time I've heard of this individual. He's probably at the medical examiner, which would make perfect sense, because when someone dies by an unexplained or an unattended death that we call, where they haven't been seen by a doctor for within a period of 18 months, it becomes unattended. And so the medical examiner automatically takes possession of the individual, does an autopsy, and discovers the cause of death. So I said, that's probably what has happened. And if you want to give me your name, phone number, your address, and an email address, I'll go ahead and send you the form that I'm going to need. But in the interim, I'm going to call them to make sure that he is at that location. She said, great. So I took the information, and then as I hung up, I immediately called the medical examiner's office to find out if, in fact, her husband was in their care. Turned out he was. And I said, okay, great. That's all I needed to know. We'll be sending you the release form here in just a few minutes. So I get the release form, send it to the medical examiner's office, and they go ahead and say, yes, we've received it. And we waited probably 2 days, maybe 3 days before the medical examiner released him into our care. Once he was in our care, she had actually requested that he be embalmed and that they have a small service and then a cremation to follow. And I said, yeah, that's no problem. And so she signed all the paperwork as the wife and went on ahead, and we did everything that she wanted. So by the time the cremation was done and the cremated remains were returned to her, she left our facility, and I really didn't think much more about it. But within, from the time that I received the initial phone call from her, making sure that he was at the medical examiner's office, the services and the cremation had happened, and back to her was about 2 weeks. And about the 21st, 22nd, 23rd day, we get this other call. We get a phone call. And she says, hi, this is so-and-so. And I said, oh, hi, how are you? And because I recognize the name.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so she said, well, I'm Mrs. So-and-so. And I said, oh, hi, how are you? How are the kids? She said, they're doing good. How do you know I have children? And I said, excuse me?
I know you.
Yeah, I said, I think we've talked before. And she said, this is the first time I've talked with you. And she goes, I said, what? And she goes, I understand you have my husband there. And I said, who's your husband? So she gave me the name of the gentleman that we had just had services for.
So it was him. The same body.
It was the same guy that died, but a different wife.
Oh.
That's exactly how I was reacting.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So anyway, she said, I need to know what you're doing with my husband. And I said, well, what I need from you is a marriage certificate.
Oh my gosh.
And so she said, well, I'm in another state. Can I email it to you? And I said, that would be fantastic. And so I gave her my email address, and she immediately sent me her wedding certificate. And I looked at it and I go, oh my gosh, he's married. And then I called the lady that the first lady that I worked with in the town that I was working. And I called and I said, look, we have a little bit of a situation. I need to see your marriage certificate. And she said, oh, okay, fine. So she sent me her marriage certificate, and it was the same deceased name on each certificate, dated within probably 12 years of each other.
What?
Yes. And each one had been illegally married to this trucker. And I thought, and as I hung up the phone, I thought to myself, well, where do I go from here?
What do I do? Do we split the ashes?
Exactly. Do I send him on a long haul to the East Coast?
Yeah.
What exactly do I do? So I just hung up the phone, and I had to come clean. There was no other way around it. I had to call the first wife that had initially called us and tell her the situation. She said, well, that's not true. That cannot be the same person. And I said, okay, it's not my husband. He would not have done that. Okay.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
that's fine. So then I called the second lady and I said, can you just verify some dates with me? She said, sure. So I went through his name, first, middle, last name, all precise. Birth date, exactly. Death date. She didn't know. She didn't know what the death date was. So that's okay. I said, you know his parents' names? Yes, they are.
Oh no.
And everything matched up on the death certificate. And so I said, well, here's the situation. Here's the story. We had an individual call us here after he had passed away, and he has passed away. And I'm just going to set it on the outset. He has had services, and he has been cremated. Quiet.
Why would you do that?
Why would it? Exactly. That's what she was asking.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Why would you do that? I said, well, at the time I had no reason to believe that this woman was not his wife. Now you have to understand that we take for granted any documentation that's handled through the state as a funeral home. Sometimes when a person comes in and says, I'm the wife, then that's gospel to us. We don't ask to see proof of marital status. We don't see if anyone has actually been physically or truthfully were married under the state law. But when they come in and say, okay, I'm a brother, I'm a sister, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a husband.
I mean, who would lie about that?
Exactly.
In death?
Why? Yeah. And why would you? And so I'm explaining that to her, and she says, well, I guess I can understand that, but my husband wasn't married to another woman.
Oh gosh.
And I said, okay, here's what I'm going to need you to do. And I said, if you want to do this, great. Do you have a picture of your husband and you? Well, I have one of me and my husband and our children.
Oh my gosh. There were kids in both families?
And I said, and now the beads of sweat are getting deeper.
Yeah.
are getting bigger and bigger, rolling down my forehead. And I'm thinking, oh boy, this is going to be an issue. So I went on ahead and I said, would you mind emailing me the picture of you, your husband, and your children? And she said, yeah, I'd be happy to. So I called the first lady and I said, could you please either bring in a photo of you, your husband, and bring that in to me, or you can email it to me. She said, Frank, what's going on?
Because she didn't know yet.
She didn't know yet.
Oh my gosh.
I said, well, another woman has surfaced. And she goes, he was having an affair? I said, no, he was married to her.
Oh, that's so much worse.
Again, silence. And I may be getting chronologically out of order here, but I just want you to know that both now have been notified that the same man that they loved and adored as their father and their husband had been cremated and taken care of by the first wife, who now had his cremated remains in her possession. And so oh my gosh, I said, would you just please bring me a photo? And she said, yes, I can. And she said, this isn't right. And I said, I agree. What else do you do?
Yeah.
Just say, I agree. So about 4 hours later, she showed up with a photo. In the photo was her husband, and 4 children.
4 children.
4 children. And the emailed photo that I received was this woman her husband and 5 children. Yes.
9 kids.
9 children. And I looked at both photos and I just held them side by side to the first wife. And I said, "Is that your husband?" And she just broke into tears.
Yeah, of course.
She said, "That is him." And I said, "This is the lady that's claimed she's married to him and I'll just say on the East Coast. This is you with him and your children. What do you want to do?" So I need to think about it. And I said, "Well, the second wife, she's not a second wife," she yells. And I just said, "Well, legally, according to the law, she is.
His other wife.
Yeah, so I need to know what you want to do. You're the first wife.
Because
according to marriage certificates.
She was married longer.
She was married longer.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "You were never divorced." She said, "No." So I cleared that up with the second. "You were never divorced." "No, we've never been divorced." And so she was shocked to learn that he had died in Arizona. That's why she called, because she started calling around wanting to know where he was, because he wasn't back in on the East Coast when he was supposed to have been after that 2-week span.
Right.
And so she started inquiring about where he may have been and found out that he had passed away, went through the medical examiner's office, that we were the funeral home that released him. And that's how she came into our acquaintance. So anyway, the first wife came back and she said, "I want to talk to her."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I said, "Okay, I can give you the number. I can't give you her address, but I can give you her number. And I think that it would be good for the both of you to probably just talk things out." She says, "I need to do it here so I can keep my temper." And I said, "Okay, you're welcome to use one of those phones." So she sat down and just took the phone off of its cradle and just set it on the desk. And you could see in her mind that she was just contemplating what she was about to say to this woman. And she was very shaky. Her voice was trembling. And so lo and behold, she picks up the phone and she dials the number. And when the phone, I can only assume, when the phone was answered on the other end, I guess the lady had introduced herself, because she said, "This is Mrs. So-and-so. I don't know who you are."
Wow.
And she said, "Well, I don't know exactly. All I was here is on the one side of the phone." And this lady continued. Her next statement was, "Well, I have a certificate." Break. "He is not your husband." Break. "Okay, do I need to fly out there and see you?"
What?
Break. "Fine, then we'll meet halfway. You tell me when and where you want to meet, and I'll be out there to meet you." Fine. So she hangs up the phone. She looks at me and she goes,
cow.
"It looks like we have a meeting next weekend." And she gave me the state where they were going to meet. And I said, "Well, good luck." And she said, "Well, luck will have nothing to do with it."
Oh.
And I said,
"Oh my God."
And I just thought, "Oh,
she's
my
about
gosh."
to throw down.
She's upset. And so anyway, and I said, "You know what? If you don't mind, I would certainly love to know what happens."
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "You'll either hear it from me or on the news."
Oh my gosh.
As soon as she said that, I thought,
Oh no.
Yeah, leave your kids home, okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, she went on ahead and she came back, and about 2 weeks later, she came back into the mortuary and she was all grinning, happy.
Okay.
And she had realized that when she met this other woman, that she and he got together because she needed help. And he was the type of person that would help in any given situation, which I didn't know. And so he was actually taking it upon himself to be the provider to her and eventually their family when she was almost destitute. And so he provided her a home, all the needed living expenses that were needed on the East Coast, which I can only imagine were numerous.
Yeah.
And so she was still there, and she said, "And I'm going to send her half the cremated remains." I said, "Wow, what changed your mind?" And she goes, "Because I understand now that he was in fact married to her. I was married to him. We both love the same man. We have children from the same man. We should let our children know each other.
Wow.
That's what I said. Holy moly.
Because they are half siblings.
That's correct. And she goes, and if all goes well, because I can't afford to live on the East Coast, she'll be moving here.
You're kidding me.
In a year or so. That's exactly the way she put it. And she said, and then we can go ahead and have our families not mesh, but at least know one another.
Oh my gosh.
Now, if you want to think about outcomes, about what could have happened.
Far better. I was thinking murder.
So was I. I was like, when she came into the mortuary smiling, I was like, is she cuffed?
Is she dead? Like, did you kill her? Are you coming in with her corpse?
Oh, my word. And so anyway, it all seemed to work out just fine. And the last I heard is that the two were still in that state and they live within a mile of one another.
Oh my gosh.
And they still socialize once a week. Yep. All because they had the same husband.
Holy cow.
So no one knew about him. One family had 5 children. The other one had 4.
Oh,
so now you got 2 women with 9 children between the one husband, and they're looking at one another as now saying, okay, well, let's try and make the best of this. If he loved both of us, then we should put aside our differences.
Yeah.
And see what we can do to make things better for both families. Interesting how that turned out, huh?
That is so weird.
Very different.
Uh-huh.
Very different. And so I know I haven't had that experience ever.
Oh, good.
Again.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I always think of when this trucker strike started, going back to the beginning about New York, I immediately thought of this gentleman thinking, man, these truckers travel all over the world, all over the nation. Who's to say that's still not happening?
I know. It very well could be.
Yeah. And then someone would just all of a sudden, their father would not show up at home, or their husband would not show up at home, and without being even the wiser, maybe finding out that he's passed away, but maybe not having the wherewithal to follow through and find out what's actually happened to him.
Oh my gosh.
Very interesting story. So, well, whether you want to laugh or cry about that
Seriously.
story, it turned out really nice, I thought.
It did.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I put it, not only because of the long-haul trucker and having marital relationships on both ends of his route, but the two being able to put other things aside, recognizing that there's a greater responsibility between the two of them of keeping a family intact and maybe having family relations build with each other, even though they're step or half brothers and sisters.
Right.
Not step, half. So, Holly, are you zoning on me?
I am.
Are you thinking about what I just said?
Yes, I'm just
Caden
thinking about it. Thankfully, no, he is not. If he was, I'd say, so you need to find a new job.
Give it to it, Holly.
Oh my gosh. First of all, probably 2 of the most incredible women.
Yeah,
if they are
that's what I
willing
thought.
to, if they're willing to get past their anger at one another, when really, I mean.
Or disbelief.
Yeah. You're not his husband.
My husband would not do that.
No. And all I was thinking was, no wonder he had a heart attack. A massive heart attack. Can you imagine having 2 families?
And I'll bet that it was the stress that
and
killed
the
him.
expenses for 2 families.
I'll bet it was the stress.
I'm sure. 2 mortgage payments, 9 children that you have to buy Christmas presents for. Oh my gosh. 9 birthdays you have to remember. Holy cow. I don't know what to say about that. I think that is ridiculous. Also, for the first wife to be able to put aside and say, oh no, he was helping her.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that is probably the perspective that she needed to have in order to cope with it and like to understand it. But even if he was helping her, really?
There's a difference
4
between
kids later and
5.
a marriage. Oh, she was the 5?
She was the 5 on the East Coast.
Oh gosh.
That's what I'm thinking. If you had there's one thing to help mow a lawn.
Yeah.
Till a garden.
Uh-huh.
Weed a flower patch.
It's a whole nother thing to get married. Buy a house. Have 5 children.
Oh my gosh.
Holy cow.
And then to think that he probably thought that it would probably never come to light.
No,
that
probably
he would
not.
never be caught. How would people know?
I know. How would they know?
Yeah. You die.
You die. That's how you know. Yeah, honestly. Holy cow.
Oh, wow. And I'm just wondering if the first wife noticed the decrease in his income.
Yeah.
Something had to
Probably.
have happened that you would, unless he was a total control individual where he managed all the finances.
Yes.
Which he probably was.
That was probably how it had to be.
Yeah.
He had to. He was managing 2 families.
Yeah. So anyway,
Oh
it was very, very different. Anyway, the outcome happened that I did not expect.
Yeah, me either.
I expected to see her come back and say, well, that's a witch of a woman.
Yeah.
I'll never see her again. Good riddance. And yeah, but they were able to, I guess, over the course of 2 days.
2
talk
days.
It out.
Yeah, and for her to say, no, we're moving to be closer to your family. Oh, look out.
Yeah.
I would maybe meet them and say, okay, I never want to see you ever again. Great to meet you.
I want to just see, as a funeral director, I'd like to just kind of see how the dynamics are working out here. Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad that you eventually were like, oh, can you tell me what happens? Drama.
But yeah, she came in all smiles, and she had, and I think part of that was that she had left his cremated remains with me.
Okay.
And so I think when she came in, she probably would not have notified me had she not left the cremated remains with me and asked me specifically what needed to be done and if she was going to send them or have them the cremated remains split. Mm-hmm. So anyway, very interesting story. I hope they're doing well.
I hope neither of them married another trucker.
Hold it. What do you do for a living? Before I get you, what do you do for a living? Yeah.
This is a deal breaker.
The first question. What do you do for a living?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Well, no, or happy, depending upon how you look at it. You know, one family gets smaller by 1, but increases by 5.
Right.
The other one gets smaller by 1, but increases by 5. By
5 and 6. Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. That is just insane.
Things again that you never would think about what the funeral director has to go through.
Yeah, how did that
legalities,
feel?
The other part is the legalities. When you start looking at the legalities of where he passed away, everything was met, and now what kind of legal hoops do I have to jump through for this wife to retain her? See, Social Security had already started its benefit payout to the first wife. So what do you do with the second wife?
That?
Yeah, I have no idea. Because they all had children. They both had children that were independent or dependent of their parents. And so the second wife would have had to have claim on the Social Security as well. His pension, everything.
The assets
had to be split down the middle.
And I wonder too if the second wife had been vindictive and was very angry at the funeral home, she probably would have had legal claim to sue.
Could have, but wouldn't have gone anywhere because we handled everything legally on our end, knowing that there was just one wife.
Or assuming.
Assuming.
What a crazy assumption to make.
Are you sure you're the only one?
Are you sure? Before we move forward.
Yeah. Oh, man. So anyway.
Oh, my gosh. I'm just thinking back. He was not having an affair. They were married.
That's right.
That's so much worse.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and they to be that blunt with her.
Yeah.
But
two grieving women.
Yeah.
And grieving families.
You have the opportunity to go to public records, and maybe we should do that more often.
Yeah.
To just take a look and make sure that whoever they claim they say they are, they are. We had one other instance, since we have just a couple more minutes. I want to go ahead and just say real fast about a young lady that her husband passed away, but she called me and claimed specifically that she was the husband or that she was the wife. And that it was her husband that had passed. And so I was working with her diligently. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a call from a young man. He says, you have my father. And I said, oh, yes, I do. And I'm working with your mother. My mother. And I said, yes, Mrs. So-and-so. And he goes, that's not my mother. That's my father's living girlfriend.
Oh.
They were never married. And I immediately started thinking of the long haul trucker.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay.
Oh no. It's happening again.
Okay, I'm going to get right back with you. So I hang up and I called this wife, quote unquote, and I asked her point blank, were you married to him? Mm-hmm. Well, he called me his wife.
Okay, well, that's not the same.
I said, sorry, everything that I've talked with you about has to end. It's stopping right now. I have a contact with the son. Again, if he hadn't called me, I would have known. I would have just said that she was the wife. Mm-hmm. And so I said to her, I've got to stop everything, all communications with you. We're not doing any more planning for your husband's funeral. We'll have to go now with the son and do as he would like to have done, because now we're in a legal issue. But he called me his wife.
What a nice sentiment. It doesn't mean anything. I'm so sorry.
And I just kept looking and talking to her and saying, but that doesn't mean anything legally.
Yeah.
I said, in this state, we have to have legal precedence. You don't have it.
Yeah.
His son does.
Right.
And so mad
I'm sure
that everything was now being changed and put into a son that didn't even care for him, didn't even love him, didn't even care about him. You're going to make him do all the arrangements. Yeah.
Well, he called.
Yeah, apparently that's what's going to happen.
Jeez.
So, yeah. It's very interesting when you get into marital relationships.
Yeah, check your documents.
Check them at the door. Bring them in with you when you start making those funeral arrangements.
Is that commonplace, or would that be very weird for if a husband died and a wife came in, for you to say, before we move forward, you have to prove that you're the wife?
Legally,
I haven't heard of any.
They don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
They just come in and verbally say they are who they say they are.
And if you find out anything contrary, that's where you have to end everything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything changes to the immediate. So we've talked about this before, I think, in survivorship, especially with cremation. You have to go with the surviving spouse. Uh-huh. If there is none, then it falls to children. If no children are of majority age, or that of being 18 or 19 or older, then it falls to siblings. Then it falls to parents.
Siblings before parents?
It may be backwards. I very seldom have to go that far down into the line, but it would make more sense to be the parents, and then, yeah, you're right. Parents, and then siblings, and then grandparents.
Wow.
So that's the legality tree you have to follow on who can actually authorize a cremation to go forward if, in fact, there is no spouse.
Right. Huh.
Or anything medical, or executor, conservator, those can all trump. But those are the successions that we have to look for. And in some states, they require at least 50%. So if there's no spouse, no surviving, and they have 6 children, we have to have at least signatures from 4 for the cremation to go forward.
Holy cow.
We don't get it, then we have to put everything on hold, because there has to be a majority of the children that accept and agree with the cremation before it can go forward.
So if there's 3 kids, 2 of the 3 have to agree.
That's correct. 51%.
That's really tough.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't have a good relationship, and
I know,
I don't want anything to do with it.
And all they have to do is put a stick in the spoke, saying he's not going to be cremated. And the way to get around that I found out really fast as a funeral director, call the one that's arguing, saying, okay, the family's willing to adhere to your wishes. Where would you like me to send the bill? Because now that they're on the hook to pay it, they're going to say, oh, well, how much is it? And you give them the figure and say, well, if they want to cremate, I'm not going to argue. You see how fast that changes around? Yeah. So, okay, if you're okay with that, I'm going to need a signed statement. Yeah. So anyway, definitely. That's that story talk today, Holly.
That's that story. I think we'll just wrap it up, because I don't know what to say about that.
Do you feel like roadkill after this story?
I do feel like roadkill. I feel like a little dead armadillo on the side of the road. Oh my gosh. Whipped back and forth. Oh, geez. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yep, that is our story for today. If you have any reactions to this, we'd love to hear them. If you have any follow-up questions, send them to letsbefrank@coffintalkin.com, or send us a DM on Instagram @coffintalkin. We love hearing from you, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Coffiners.
Bye.
Drive safely.